Rightio. Okay, I think we're just about ready to get started. We've still got a few people popping in that I'm admitting as we go, so if I look distracted for a second, that's because I'm letting people into the meeting. Welcome, I'm Jess, and I am the Chief People Officer here at PaySauce, and I've worked in payroll for many years, and I've been very blessed to work with Vicky and Lynn, who are here with me today for many years. We've been through lots of Christmases together, so we know all the questions that come up over Christmas. We've been here and done this a lot of times, so we thought we'd share it ahead of time to see if that helps you all out. Hopefully some of it you'll already know, but hopefully you'll learn a few things as well. So Vicky is our Senior Product Specialist, so she's been working with PaySauce right from the beginning, and Lynn is our Head of Customer Experience, so she has also been at PaySauce pretty much right from the beginning. So they really know the ins and outs of PaySauce, which is fantastic. I'm going to run you over the agenda in a second. We are going to see how we go at the end for questions, but we might just be pushing it on time, and I know a lot of you have got other things to get off to. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that some information goes out after the webinar as well. So you'll get a PDF to take away with lots of information. We have just made live on our website PaySauce Christmas frequently asked questions, so you've got that to refer to as well. And of course you have our amazing support team all the time as well. So there's plenty of time for getting information if you need it, if we don't get to it today. All right, let me just switch to this other page and start running through these slides. So welcome to the PaySauce Christmas special. We are going to meet our host, which I've already done. We've got a couple of tips for you. We know Christmas is pretty stressful. Everything gets a bit manic and a bit stressed, so we'll give you a couple of things to help with that. We'll go over the basics of public holidays. We're going to talk a little bit about casuals because we get a lot of questions about casual employees, and there tends to be quite a bit of confusion about that. We've got lots of the common leave questions that we tend to get asked. We're going to talk a little bit about close downs and bonuses and a couple of extra tricky traps that people can fall into sometimes. We'll flag those to you as well. Right. Let's get started. We're going to crack straight into how to be stress-free at Christmas with Lynn. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Welcome, everybody, and hopefully you have had a especially nice Christmas. Christmas is very stressful. People are really busy. The banks are busy. We're busy, and the rest of it. So it's really good to be as prepared as you possibly can for your Christmas period. So make sure you know exactly who is taking leave. Make sure the staff know that they're taking leave. If they request it, make sure they do all their requests nice and early so you know exactly what's going to happen. If you're going away yourself, you can pre-prepare pays. You don't have to leave it to the last minute to run them. And you can also, if you're away and you want to run your pays while you're away, you can use our phone app. You use the same login details. Just download the app onto your phone and you can run your pays from there. In terms of not leaving it to the last minute, the banks are exceptionally busy in that week before Christmas, as are we. Okay? So if you can sort of be a little bit organised, get your queries in nice and early, we can help you out. The last payday in terms of processing bank files is going to be on Friday the 22nd. So if you're paying before Christmas, you want to pay your staff before Christmas, and actually let them know you are paying them too. Then the 22nd is the last day we'll be processing, and then we'll resume again on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and then the same delay in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Okay? So make sure you're organised in terms of when you're actually going to close those pays off and have the bank deal with them. We've got lots of information in our knowledge base, which is just off our website. You can just click on the help area there and put in some keywords and search for articles about Christmas bonuses, anything like that. Our staff will be available as usual up till Christmas. There might be slightly longer times to wait for replies just because it is very busy. The days in between, we're limiting our hours a little to 8:30 to 5:30 rather than 8 till 6. So feel free to use the phone support, email, or our chat.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
so
know.
have a plan.
We know from past experience, don't we, that all those calls come in
Yeah.
right up until the last day, and then magically about lunchtime, everyone's disappeared and gone off, so all the calls stop suddenly.
That's when the traffic gets really bad. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lynn. All right. Move on. Vicky.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start with some questions that people ask a lot to the help desk. One of them is, if we close for public holiday, who needs to be paid for the day off? This is an easy one, probably already know this. If your employee would normally have worked on that day, that is a public holiday, they would get paid for the day off. And it's called a public holiday taken and recorded as a public holiday taken in PaySauce. It used to be called a statutory holiday, but that term isn't used anymore. You have to be careful because sometimes even casual workers qualify to get paid for that day, which we're going to touch on a bit more shortly. If we have people working on Christmas Day, what do they get paid? Of course, they get paid time and a half for every hour that they work. Now, it's kind of an interesting thing really, because if an employee usually works about 8 hours on a day and they only come in and work 3.5, they just get 3.5 hours for working on the day at time and a half. And possibly they're not going to get as much for working on that day as they would have got if it had been a public holiday taken. However, they also get another day to take later called an alternative public holiday. So the alternative public holiday is a day that they can have to take any time they want through the year, as long as you mutually agree on the day. It used to be called a loo day, and that term is not used for this particular day anymore. A loo day is something else, so don't use a loo day if you want to record an alternative public holiday. So, okay, that's what is an alternative public holiday. So only the staff that work on the public holiday will receive an alternative public holiday. And also, if you call somebody in to work for you on that day who doesn't normally work on it, but you just bring them in to help because everybody else is away, then they don't necessarily qualify for an alternative public holiday. They still qualify for time and a half, but not necessarily another day to take off later, because they haven't given up an actual day that they would normally have worked or have been on holiday. So the next slide, I think, is about casual workers. What's different about a casual worker with public holidays? Well, the thing is that quite often casual workers are on your team that aren't actually really, under the eyes of MBIE, casual. And that can be because they started off working very intermittently and then gradually moved into a more regular kind of employment, although maybe not on the same day or on with the same hours all the time. So an employee that's treated as a casual, paid out their 8% as they go, but also works quite regularly for you, maybe on different days though, could also be entitled to have a public holiday taken. You have to be careful that you don't deny your employee who's paid out their 8% as they go, just in case, if you're not sure about it, it's better to make sure that they get that day paid as well, just to be on the safe side. So an employee, a casual worker that you have that is regularly working for you, that comes into work, would still qualify for time and a half for working on the day and an alternative public holiday as well. If you just call a person in to work for you that doesn't normally work for you, that's a true casual, and they would qualify for at least time and a half payment for the time they worked, but you can agree with them what they would get for that work that they're doing, because they don't usually work for you. If a casual worker is not working on the day, but usually does work on that day for you, it's just like fixed term employment kind of people that might be called in to work for, say, 3 months to fill a gap, they would definitely be entitled to a public holiday taken just the same as your normal statutory or your normal regular workers. I think that's pretty much what it's on.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about casuals, don't we? I think it's a really common
Very
thing to think
confusing.
that they don't get things because they're casual.
But also, it's a good time to think about whether they're really casual or not.
Yeah, it's a
and
really
have
good
that
time.
conversation, and maybe it's time to, maybe in the new year.
Yeah, possibly permanent part-time. or-
Possibly, yeah.
You might find they've developed a work pattern for you every Monday.
Yeah. Yeah,
Monday,
yeah.
Tuesday,
And
Wednesday.
anyway, you don't see them as casual if they have a regular pension at all.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That leads us nicely into some common leave questions, Lynn. These are the ones, these are the hits.
These are common questions that we get asked around this time of year particularly, but they apply through the year. One of which is why is my workers' annual leave rate shown is higher than the normal rate. So when annual leave is calculated, it's looking at the last 52 weeks average pay, and they compare it to the ordinary pay that that employee gets. That's how the system works. And we're always for annual leave pick the higher of those. Now, the reason people can have a higher average pay is they might have worked on a public holiday and got time and a half. They might have got additional payments throughout the year, bonuses or the regular allowances that they receive, and that all calculates into that leave rate. So if you've got any queries about the leave rate that you're seeing, if you think it looks way off or something like that, feel free to contact us and we can have see if there's anything in particular going on. But it's not uncommon to have a higher annual leave rate. The next thing that happens a lot at Christmas is we get Christmas bonuses going in. So bonuses can be included in leave earnings or leave rates if they are basically contracted bonuses. They're not discretionary ones, they're not gifts to the employees. Christmas bonuses are often gifts, so therefore, they're not in a contractual agreement, and they're basically, here we go.
Yeah, great job.
Good year.
$300 there you go.
Yeah, and we do that. So those discretionary ones are usually excluded from leave payments, and when you run those bonuses, there is an option to exclude them, okay? So that they don't affect that average rate. Another question, can I pay all of the leave a person's got at the end of the year? The answer is no, you don't do that. You just pay out for the leave they're taking, okay? Don't clear out everything.
Mm. Yeah, that's definitely one I've heard quite a few times.
Yeah.
And you sort of run the risk of straying into incorrectly cashing up leave. That's not generally well looked upon by our friends in the
And
labour
it's
sector.
part of being organised with the, like in terms of taking leave, how many days is this of leave this person actually take, as opposed to
Absolutely.
how much have they got. Yeah.
Brilliant. That segues very nicely into talking about close downs, which is with you, Pete.
To me, right. So if a company shuts its doors and closes down at Christmas time for a number of weeks, that's called having a company close down. So the close down in that case can only be once a year, although the company can have different departments or areas that close down at different times. It doesn't have to all be at the same time. But if a company does have a close down, all the staff that are in that close down period would have the same close down date every year. It's a good idea to choose a date and stick to it if you can, so that everybody knows what's going on at the time. So this leads into make sure all your staff are aware about the close down date, because if you have staff that have begun through the year, everyone talks about going on holiday at Christmas, but they may not realise the company is actually shutting down, and they must go on leave. So you have to make sure, because you need to let them know at least 2 weeks before you close down that they're going to be on leave. So make sure you've given them, at least have a chat about it more than 2 weeks before that if you can, so that everybody's quite comfortable about going on holiday at that time. If an employee hasn't been with the company for a full year, they may not have enough leave to cover their close down period. And if your company closes down for 3 weeks, taking, say, Christmas Day as the beginning of that, they'll probably need to have about 11 days of annual leave available, which is for those full 3 weeks. Because don't forget, there's two public holidays to take for the 32 weeks, so that's 4 days. So you need about 11 days of annual leave if you haven't got any other holidays in there. And if an employee doesn't have enough leave to cover that time, you can at least just give them what they've got, and you can fill in the rest with leave without pay or something like that. Or you could, if you want to clear out their 8% holiday pay, MBIE say that you can just give them their 8% that they've gained since they started working for the company at the close down date, and it doesn't matter if that doesn't cover the whole time they're away. So what will happen in that case is that the employee's anniversary date will revert to the close down date. So from the close down date, when everybody goes on holiday, they'll be gaining for the next year. And by the time the next close down comes around next year, they'll have their 4 weeks holiday to take. So that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, I think I've threshed that one.
It is a complicated one, isn't it? There's a big difference between those, formal customary close downs and, we don't close down, but we sort of encourage you to take leave if you can, and then, it's.
Well, the other thing too, I think as well, companies often ask about advancing the leave for the staff that don't have enough. And although we don't recommend that you do that, because you can't always guarantee that they're going to come back and work that back out again, but companies can actually advance the leave if it's just a little bit short. Yeah, there's no problem.
If it's a lot of thought, you might run into the same problem again next year. So
that's right. We don't think so. Yeah,
absolutely.
Cautious.
Right. Well, staying with leave, because we really do talk a lot about leave at this time of year. So we've got some more leave questions later.
Yeah. So another common one is about an employee who was meant to work on a public holiday, but called in sick. How do you pay them? Well, basically they get paid as a public holiday taken. It's not a day of sick leave, so you can't edit that. Do I have to pay the staff before a public holiday? Now, this is one that comes up more at Christmas time than any other time, because lots of staff do want to be paid in time to do their Christmas shopping and things like that. You don't have to pay before the holiday, but you need to discuss with your employees when you are going to pay them their holiday pay. It's not uncommon for people to bring the date forward around Christmas time. Around New Year's, not so much. I think maybe just consistent New Year's celebration. So you need to have that discussion with your employees and let them know whether they are being paid. Okay. If they're not going to be getting their pay because processing days aren't available, they're going to be getting it later than normal, make sure that you let them know that as well. You can always offer them in advance, cut it off their pay when you need to, when you do actually run the pay. Another one is if your employee has only just started, do you need to pay them for a public holiday? Basically, yes. There's no limit. You don't have to have worked for a month or something like that before you become entitled to be paid for a public holiday. You can start on the 21st of December and still be paid. So if you are going to hire somebody, just be aware of what start date you can put on there.
Yeah, I did have a manager once who had a different life, a contract with a start date as a public holiday on Monday, so ended up paying that person's first day as a public holiday. Yeah,
it is one just to watch out for the hiring too. Okay, bonuses.
Bonuses. Okay, so there's two kinds of bonuses. You can see on the screen there with the graphic. You can offer a gross bonus or a net bonus as the employer. It's not a good idea to offer a net bonus to the staff, and that means that if you're going to say to your staff, look, we're giving you a bonus and you're going to get, for example, $500 in the hand, that means that you might have to increase the gross a lot for some of the staff to actually reach that net amount that you've told them they're going to get. And this is because obviously when you pay a bonus, the staff are going to get taxed on it, but they might have things like KiwiSaver, a student loan, or something else like that coming out of that bonus total. So we don't think it's a good idea to offer your staff or tell your staff how much they'll actually receive. If you're going to give them a bonus, tell them what the gross figure is going to be, and then the net amount will be what it is. And that way, at least everybody's getting the same amount and it's fair. However, on PaySauce, you can actually set up and the little tool there that lets you get a net amount
to choose that it is the net.
So,
but it is something that people often get shocked about.
Absolutely, yeah.
And see how much it actually costs to get that bonus.
That's right, and you can sometimes find that an employee with a few deductions, just standard deductions, can get a lot more than others, which doesn't seem really very fair.
If I want, Julie to get 200 and Lisa to get 200 because I'm trying to be fair, but Julie contributes 10% to KiwiSaver.
Yeah.
And, the difference in gross value is
So it's
quite
just not
significant.
worth the hassle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, that doesn't bother you at all. And you're totally happy with that, in which case absolutely go ahead. It's super easy. There's a checkbox when you're loading the bonus. Brilliant. Okay, to you. That brings, that's tricks to watch out for, and that is, again, that was a trick to watch out for, but we have some more. So this applies at all times of the year, but in particular at this time of year, because of how many public holidays there are in such a short space of time. You should be aware that when employees are terminating and finishing up, you might need to include public holidays that fall after their final day of work. Now, that only applies when they have entitled leave, so leave that they have become entitled to at an anniversary date, so they would need to have been working with you for longer than 12 months. You can check the difference on the balances page. So if they do only have accrued leave or leave in advance of their entitlement, you can ignore this entirely, it doesn't count. You are going to need to count forward the number of entitled leave days from their final day of work, get a calendar, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then check if any public holidays fall in that period of time, and then add those to the final pay packet. They are entitled to those. And then, of course, they also get a further 8% on top of those public holidays, but it's just an entitlement. I can see, I can hear that the questions are popping up. We will try and get to questions at the end if we have time. So we'll come back to you in a second. Annual leave catch-ups. Now, again, another really common thing happens all through the year, but in particular at Christmas, I need to pay for my holiday, I need to pay for some presents, I'm going to cash up some leave to do that. So aside from the general rules around cash-ups, which you probably already know, but we'll cover anyway, so it needs to be entitled leave, which means they need to have been working for longer than 12 months and have an entitled balance. Can only be a week per anniversary year, so that 12-month window runs from your anniversary date to the anniversary date, so they can only do a week in each of those years. And it is taxed at what we call lump sum or extra pay rate. So it is different than the tax that applies to a normal waged or salaried pay packet, and it comes out a little bit higher. So what you'll often hear is they're not getting the same value for that week than they would have if they had been paid it. And that is true. So if I fall into, say, the 30 or the 33% tax bracket, the entire amount is going to be taxed at that rate, plus earned premium as well. So important for staff to be aware, I think, when they are cashing up that leave, that financially they're not going to be receiving as much. And cashing up alternative days. This is an interesting one. What we often hear is, can it be exchanged for payment immediately within the same period, or as soon as they have earned it? It can't be. It does need to have been earned more than 12 months ago, but if you have had an alternate day in someone's balance for more than 12 months and they want to exchange that for payment, like a cash up, they can do so. We have a nifty little tool in PaySauce that lets you cash that up. So that can be put in the same way that an annual leave cash up can be recorded separately. What have we got? At least 52 weeks back. Yep.
All those requests have been right.
Yeah.
The employee has to request those.
Yes, absolutely. You can't make people cash up things or have a policy that requires them to do so. So it's definitely off the employee's request only. I think that might bring us to the end of the session, and it does. Fantastic.